We're here with Josh Allen, the author of Only If You Dare, 13 Stories of Darkness and Doom. Josh, welcome to AASL National.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now, Only If You Dare, it's your second volume of short horror tales for kids. And I guess my first question was, do you like scaring children?
Yes, I like scaring children. I guess let me answer this in two ways. So the first way, I like scaring kids because it's fun. I was the kid growing up who would hide under his sister's bed for like 45 minutes just for the perfect moment to reach out and grab her ankle, freak her out. That was me. And the second way I'll answer this, yeah, I like scaring kids because I think it's good for them. And I mean this sincerely. I think that horror gives kids a space where they can experience emotions like fear, anxiety, tension, but they do so safely when they're reading in their bedroom. And horror allows kids to play with those emotions, to figure those emotions out so that they can navigate them better in their real lives.
Mm-hmm. Now, you just kind of alluded to this just now, but you were obviously, I think, a fan of scary stories when you were a kid.
Yeah, I was a big fan of scary stories when I was a kid. I was really into the Twilight Zone. Mm-hmm. I used to watch that with my dad all the time. Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury was a favorite. And the Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark trilogy by Alvin Schwartz was a huge influence.
Now, where did you find the inspiration for these particular tales, and how do they differ from those in your previous book, Out to Get You?
Well, I'm really interested, with my first book especially, I was really, really interested in trying to take ordinary, everyday things and reveal the creepy possibilities within them. Like I have a story about the yellow and black school crossing sign that's shaped like a house. It's got a boy and a girl crossing through a crosswalk in it. Mm-hmm. I have a story about that sign and the boy and the girl who are trapped in there, and a boy notices they begin to move. They begin to switch places. I've got a story about like a haunted paper towel dispenser in the boys' bathroom, like quirky, zany things like this. I'm really interested in finding my inspiration from ordinary, everyday things that you can turn creepy. My second book, Only If You Dare, I continue that. I've got a story about a haunted microwave oven. I have a story about a snowman that refuses to melt. But I also start playing a little bit more in this book with horror tropes. There's a scary clown story. There's a scary doll story. And so kids tell me that this book is a little bit scarier than my first book.
So you're doing your job right.
I hope so.
Now, this book, the illustrations are wonderful and really creepy by Sarah J. Coleman. Mm-hmm. She also illustrated your first book. What is the collaboration process like with her, or do you collaborate at all with her?
We don't really collaborate at all. Sarah and I are friends. We connected on social media, but our artistic relationship is such that I trust her enough to let her do her job and create the illustrations, and she trusts me enough to let me do my job and write the stories. And I think that's why our collaborations work, is because we respect each other enough to stay out of each other's way. Mm-hmm.
Now, it's written for young readers, but as you mentioned, it can be definitely scary at times. Now, how do you, as a writer, balance that, creating scary stories, stories that are scary but not too scary for young readers? Was it difficult to find that balance?
Well, yeah, I'm not in the business of traumatizing children, right? I mean, that's not the objective. But a couple of things I believe. One, I believe that the imagination is a really protective force. So, we see this when we go to see a movie that's been made by one of our favorite books. A lot of people will say things like, well, that's not how I pictured Hogwarts, right? Or that's not how I rendered that in my head. And I think when we read horror in our imaginations, we render scenes and moments in ways that, particularly kids, they render these things in their heads in a way that they can handle. So I think the imagination is a protective force, right? It will allow violence on the page to be as violent as is appropriate for that particular reader, which is different than a movie, right? If you go to a movie, you sort of turn over the imaginative power to the director. Now, having said that, I don't have a lot of violence and I don't have gore in my books at all. But I think that we can trust kids and we can trust their imaginations to protect them a little bit. And I also want to respect kids enough. I don't want to see children as these fragile, delicate teacups. I think kids are tough. And I want to respect kids enough to creep them out, to give them the heebie-jeebies, right? I want to trust kids and respect kids enough to be willing to scare them, because I think they're tough and I think they can take it.
Absolutely. Now, we're here at AASL National, surrounded by school librarians. Do you have a memory from your childhood about a school librarian or school library that has stuck with you throughout the years?
My favorite place in my elementary school, Southland Elementary School in Riverton, Utah, was the school library. I just adored that space. To me, it felt like I used to spend recesses in the library. After school, I would go hang out in the library to the point that my mother would call the school and tell them to come get me and send me home. And it was just this place of incredible possibility, right? You walk into a library and there's all of these books, and every one of them potentially filled with wonder and mystery and magic. And I just loved that space. I don't think I would be a published writer today if it were not for the library at Southland Elementary School.
That's wonderful. Josh, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.